ready for it because I'm going to hit record and then I'm going to be adjusting my headphones and total professionalism. Total.
We're serious now.
That's it. Good. Okay. Because I hit record already. So Abigail and Tommy Davis of the band Oryx. Hello.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Thank you guys for taking time out of your early afternoon, I believe, to chat.
Yeah.
You guys have a record coming out on Translation Loss, and congratulations for that, by the way. It's your third album, and it's Lamenting a Dead World. And the thing I wanted to ask you first about it is, and kind of what we were just talking about a little bit, in a time with so many horrors and so many apocalypses, can we be a little more specific about what killed the world?
I think generally individualism is our big killer.
Okay, let's go deeper. Take me there.
Yeah, I mean I think every time I kind of dive into one, oh my God, the mask thing, whatever it is, everything seems to boil down to like how can people be so selfish? And so, maybe it is an intrinsically American quality. I don't know, but I think conflating freedom with selfishness is a little, it's kind of been where we're at, and I don't know if it's exactly like something we can recover from or not, but it's something that I think has been our society's greatest weakness and crutch, and it's kind of something that I think is our, I think it's our downfall. Yeah.
You think so? I mean, I do. I only ask because, the crisis of capitalism, right? The sort of fetishization of depravity. There is so much to choose from when you're thinking of like America's worst cultural exports to the world.
Yeah,
I mean that's even before you get to I'm not going to wear a mask because my freedom.
Well, I think that it takes root in that though. Okay. Like I think I don't think that perspective could bloom out of we're all here for each other.
No, and I agree. I agree with that 100%. I think some of it has to sort of come in the context of white entitlement, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, of course. But again, it's me first. I'm better or whatever it is. I mean, it's a very egocentric perspective, no matter what. And I think that in and of itself, in a nutshell, I feel like it's something I hear daily at this point. Why can't we all just kind of like look out for each other? Why can't we, whatever? And it's like, that's not how our society has been constructed.
No.
Because I mean, and capitalism is an aspect of that. It's a major systemic structural player, of course. And it's not to argue that I definitely have no interest in going down the socialism, capitalism, communism, whatever.
Are you sure?
No,
you could.
I mean, not really, because I don't know that I have a better idea. I just think that but what takes root in
come on, man, fuck it, let's go.
Yeah, it's kind of it's all based in the individual first, which is great, but then if you can't put yourself first without stepping on the next guy, I just don't think that that's a good way to structure society.
And the pandemic just made that explode.
Did.
It exposed all the warts in our society, and I think the root is in that egocentric perspective.
It's the rugged individualism narrative of America. I get it. I'm with you. I get it.
And of course, like you said, I'm here benefiting from the, from those privileges, I guess. But
oh shit, story of my life, dude. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
The most you could do with that is make the most of it. But okay. So rugged individualism. I wasn't expecting that. I like it. Yeah, I like it. I wasn't expecting it. I mean, I was,
that was a hell of a question.
But you're absolutely right, though. It ties into everything from like, I'm going to put this fucking giant smokestack on my truck to I have the right to not wear a mask. And so I'm not going to. Here's my nose forever. Here's my nose, right? Here's my nose. Here's my nose spreading the plague.
By the way, the exposed nose is like, I think it's the new, like, sagging your pants. Yeah. Or maybe it's the sideways hat. I don't know. It's something.
Yes, it is. It is an unfortunate marker of our age.
Yeah.
Right. I yelled at a guy in the grocery store last week, actually. Yeah. I said, my 3-year-old could keep his mask on and you can't. Right. Swear to God. Yeah. Actual words out of my mouth. I felt like the most self-righteous person ever. But no, but individualism, you're absolutely right. It ties into all this stuff: economic stuff, cultural stuff, race stuff, everything.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to think of U.S. history as like a racial thing, but I think you're right, and I think, obviously vaccine rollouts notwithstanding, because Europe is a mess. I think part of the reason we've seen places like New Zealand or Northern Europe have an easier time with the pandemic overall is because everybody is kind of everybody else's cousin, right? And it's easy to be on the same side when everyone looks like you, and your families have known each other for 900 years and so on. I guess it's harder to sort of place that mindset in the US because shit, I don't even know my neighbor's name.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. No, it still feels new.
Yeah. I mean, it is new.
Yeah. I mean, and that's why I think even the concept of gentrification is very much an American ideal. And not that it's a good thing, obviously, but it's something that I think we have going on very specifically in America. I mean, I don't think you could look at Paris or it's not about race really in that aspect. It's about there are cities that don't have that much history, that are not there's not that much established in terms of like what can be built and what can't and whatever. You look at a lot of you're mentioning Europe, and it has I just think there's so much more history there, and there's so much more you're not going to necessarily tear down and build up these brand new ugly high rises that that's going on in every city, Denver included. And I think it's because we're a young country, because there's a lot of growing pains.
Yes, well put. Growing pains.
Yeah, and also racism and
yes, and definitely racism and economic discrimination and race-based economic discrimination, and oh my goodness. See, we could go so deep into this.
We can.
This could be the whole interview.
I'm happy to do
that. Okay. Next question. Okay. Lament. The word lament, right? My head immediately goes to Lord of the Rings laments, where Legolas is walking around and he's reciting poetry to Gandalf. I take the word lament to imply a sense of mourning.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So you lead off the album with contempt at the same time. Tell me about squaring the idea of mourning with sort of the framing of the songs themselves.
Yeah, I mean, Lamenting a Dead World is very much a, you know, I would consider it a eulogy, and it is very much a feeling of maybe the death of one world and the beginning of another. I do feel like that we go through cycles very fast in the spectrum of millennia. I think especially in America, I think we're going through, a very like probably every 100 years is just vastly different than the next 100 years, right? So I think that our world and the viewpoint and everything that makes somebody from the 1900s who they are is vastly different than somebody from the 2000s or the 2100s. There are these very fast changes in the grand scheme of millennia and everything. So the whole world itself to us is dead and reborn in a new way. And I think, the same way that older generations will go, oh, in my generation, we did this. And it's like, yeah, because the world is changing so fast. And we are also so ready to destroy old technology to build on new technology, and just everything just is moving at such a fast rate. And in that scheme, and within that, I think that there's a lot of what you mentioned before, where there's the human biases that come into play that are so exposed during this very fast process. And a lot of this takes hold in concepts like manifest destiny or gentrification or whatever, where these concepts of one race is greater than another, and it moves so much faster now, I think, than maybe it used to in the past. Like in early man, that now it's just a faster game. I don't know. And so in that way, I think, lamenting dead worlds past, there's a viewpoint that I've kind of been, I guess, constructing, but a lot of it does begin with the idea of contempt for others and the contempt for even for self. Like, I think that even our culture now deals with so much self-hatred and so much contradiction within this concept that you're supposed to be beautiful and you're also supposed to be, I don't know. There's just a lot of internal contradiction that happens, I think, with us nowadays. And I don't even know that I fully grasp exactly what, like, I feel like there are concepts that I feel like I'm exploring lyrically, and I wonder if as I grow older, they will make more sense to me, even as a writer, But I think that the concepts are something that makes sense together. And
even like going back to your question too about the structure of it, like we were putting together the songs of how the album would sound, and we thought we'd start with a song like Contempt, which is super just angry, pissed off, hits you right at the beginning, right?
Yes, it is.
But then the closer with Oblivion, it was definitely a thought out where we wanted to have like this kind of like this hopeful ending, which that song really ended up becoming that to us. And we've kind of done that with every album where the end is hopeful. There is the sense of despair in the beginning, and that's a part of life, but there's other positives too. So that's kind of where we came up with the structures of every song.
Well, let's talk about that then, because I wanted to ask you guys about Oblivion and putting that sort of massive, I don't want to call it a summary because it even kind of pushes beyond what's come before it on the record. How conscious, when that was coming together, how conscious were you of that sort of doing that? Like how purposefully in as you guys were putting the song together, how purposefully was making it do that? How purposefully were you making it do that thing?
Well, we actually, is I guess, the term blessing and a curse. We were supposed to record the album in March, and we were intending to fly out to Earhammer Studios in Oakland and record then. And just at that time, they were going under quarantine, and it was just getting crazy at that time in 2020. So we had, every time this kind of stuff happens, I think to people, it's like, what are we going to do? Like there's this scramble, appropriately, that we're all, this is fucked, like, I don't know what to do next. We got a game plan. Do we even record this album this year? How does this work? All that kind of stuff. And what ended up happening was we had, 4 or 5 months longer to essentially sit on the album and kind of, it's a very introspective album. And I think we benefited from the extra time to think about exactly how it should be organized and constructed, and really, really edit what it is that we wanted to get across.
With Oblivion, we were able to kind of realize, we want to sit on some of these riffs longer in the song. We want to extend them, because normally in our songwriting, we've had a hard time sitting on riffs for a long time. Like
we're very impatient people.
It makes us feel uncomfortable sometimes. So we really wanted
4 times go. 4 times next riff.
We wanted to push ourselves into that extra time that Tommy's had out. We were able to kind of sit and really be like, all right, well, we have more time to kind of focus on these riffs. Let's just play this, and then what comes with that. So Tommy's soloing and other layers, the synth, and there was just all these other layers that we're able to kind of marinate with, and actually, first time we've been able to just sit with ourselves and feel comfortable with that, and it was refreshing for us.
Yeah, that's what the pandemic forced us to sit with ourselves, like, for sure.
Yeah.
That's kind of amazing, though, right? Yeah. To take the opportunity to kind of dig into what you're doing in a different way. What I'm seeing, in addition to kind of the glut of, well, we have this live recording sitting around, let's release it. That is everywhere now. Mm-hmm. What I've seen a lot of is kind of people figuring out what matters creatively to them, and you're seeing a lot of like sort of bands getting back together, and a lot of bands, a lot of the artists reaching out and doing different collaborations, and kind of it's almost, it's not a panic at this point, but it's kind of like a time matters, right? Fucking life is short. Let's make it count. Kind of mentality. So it's interesting to hear you say that, the thing you dug into is these songs in that time.
Well, I think too, within that context, I don't think we knew. We definitely didn't know that much about coronavirus and what it would do to us if we got it, and then we suffer for a long time, or we have mild allergies, or we die. Right. It's like this whole, who the hell knows? So then I think that there was, oddly enough, a driving factor was sort of like, let's get this album done, and then if we die, whatever. Like at least like we left our mark, I guess, and it just felt,
yes,
it felt like, let's make it the right thing,
Okay. See, that's exactly, yes, exactly right.
It could have been the last, or maybe it will be the last thing we do, and
I'm so happy with it.
Well, that's okay, but that's a shift in perspective, right? Of every day,
Right.
I think that, I know I think about how I go about my daily business differently now, and I think a lot of people do.
Yeah.
You know, I think it has to kind of change how you engage with your own work.
Right.
So that makes total sense to me.
Yeah, I mean the like you said, like the time sensitive dire need to like at least we can leave our mark, or we can just have this thing and then I don't know what the future holds, but hey.
But you have the thing, right? But you did the thing. Yes.
We successfully lived past the recording process. So
that's great. That's great. That's beautiful. That matters. That fucking matters. No, absolutely. Yes.
I don't want to leave that unfinished.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
All right. You wound up. It's interesting. I didn't know you were sort of slated to do the record with Greg Wilkinson.
Right.
I didn't know that. That's interesting. You wound up doing it with Ben Ramsdahl. How was that experience? When were you in the studio, and what was that experience like?
Yeah, it was awesome. Ben killed it. He was just a creative, directed person that just really pushed us, I think, to new levels. I know a lot of people say that when they're working with engineers or whatever, but I mean, for us, it really was a big difference.
Ideally, yeah.
No, that's what you want. I mean, that's the ideal experience. Greg's amazing, and we'd love to work with him again. And his hands are still on this album. That was kind of our goal, anyways. But we were grounded. We had to stay here, and it ended up being great because then we could play on all of our instruments. There's nothing that we're having to borrow in California or whatever it was. So we got to play on us, like that's our tone. And it just was a great experience with Ben because we clicked right away, and that's important in the recording process. It felt natural. Even the first day when I was recording drums, we did the first take. He's like, I can hear that you're nervous. And I couldn't even hear it myself. So it was really cool. Just, he could catch on to that right away. And that's just, experience on his part too. But I love that he was able to call that out right away. And with all of us just say, hey, let's do that and loosen up. Let's take a walk around the block and let's go outside and, get some fresh air and try it again, just because I want you guys to feel really natural about this and feel good. So he was great. Yeah.
That's got to be a great moment, because nothing cures feeling nervous like being called out on it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, the honesty is so important. It's such a vulnerable experience, but then you're at least somebody be like, no, I'm not going to call that a good take if you feel if it just feels like
you can hear
you're
it.
tense or whatever. I mean, that's like anything it's important to you, and you just want to crush it into a fucking diamond and make it perfect. But some of the better stuff comes out of just chill the fuck out and
take a deep breath.
Yeah, exactly.
And then crush it. Yeah.
And then of course, yeah.
Right. And then the crushing happens. Yes. You guys did Stolen Absolution with Dave Otero, who, of course, Chemist, Cephalic Carnage, a long legacy of awesome shit. Was there something different you wanted to do this time around, or is it just sort of searching for a different sound? Because let me just say this, the vibe I get from Lamenting a Dead World is like low ceiling, basement venue, volume sort of has nowhere to go, so you just feel it here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That means the world.
Yes.
The Stolen Absolution, the sound of Stolen Absolution is a different kind of massive. It's a little more open spaced.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's the only way I can describe it. But this is sort of a little more consuming in that way. Can you talk about obviously working with Ben wasn't your original plan, but sort of how do you feel about the atmosphere that you were able to get for this record?
I mean, my hat is off to Dave Otero, Greg Wilkinson, and Ben Romsdahl. I mean, the three engineers are both incredibly talented, and I do think that all three have obviously have like, they have their specialties. Part of our follow-up with having to bail on recording with Greg was to have him mix and do the final mix and master.
Yep.
And kind of we still wanted his hand in it. I mean, we recorded the Born Into Madness EP with him in Oakland, and I think that there's just a feeling when you hit the nail on the head, I guess. It's just sort of like, we want that sense of rawness, but I mean, we want it to sound good and everything, so I mean, there's this weird balance between that I think is just totally like a personal touch on different. I mean, it's not like good or bad. It's just like what seems to work. But yeah, I mean, Greg definitely had the final say there. That being said, I think, I mean, of course, Brain Oil and he's like, his ear for sludge and for heavy music is unparalleled. But then I mean, Ben did such a great job. There were so many things that he I think he was very, he was experimental in a really, really, really highly intelligent way that was like, let's try this and I think it'll work, and we'll figure it out, as we go. But it's like, let's try some stuff that is not very common necessarily to our recording experience in this music, because recording loud music in general is I think it is in general a fairly experimental process. Translating a loud band to a record is just, it's all over the place, and certain people create atmosphere in different ways. And he was able to create atmosphere in very specific ways with the studio we were in that I think were super creative and definitely very intelligent. It gave us a baseline that was it was great to work off of that.
And we also had talked to our friends in Permanent Man and a Feather and Bone who had just recorded with Ben. And we kind of were talking about, hey, we're going to stay here. How was that whole process with Ben? And they had just such great things to say about him. We met him and we wanted to go through that same experience. And also the studios he was recording in at that time, which is no longer around, just he had to move to a different place. But it was just this really cool studio that had been around for a while, and I can't even really describe it. It was just, it was big. It had a lot of high ceilings. Yeah. And so I think you're kind of hearing some of that maybe in the recording. But I think ultimately, like Tommy said, everyone has a different style with recording. I think ultimately what we brought here instead of Soul and Absolution is just more maturity in the songs and songwriting. And I think ultimately we could hear that in it with ourselves too. And, Ben really pushed us to be expansive and to sound bigger in that way.
Yeah, so. He used a lot of room mics and getting the feel of the room, using a real plate, a real plate reverb that was the size of, I don't know, a 10, 12 foot room. And he had a Leslie in the house that we actually were able to use on Oblivion. Using a real Leslie and kind of and Misery, right? Yeah. There were things that I think just being let's try it out. That's awesome. That feeling of once we kind of felt more comfortable in the studio, like Abby was saying, it's the first day is a little all right.
Right, you're feeling it out. You're feeling it out. Yeah. Absolutely.
We gotta kind of like grow the album into this room and figure out how to make that thing happen here. So it's great. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hey, no, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Great. You guys, hang on, I gotta adjust my headphones.
Oh,
You
yeah.
guys have Total Pro. You guys
I can
have
hear you.
gone from just the two of you to a trio with guests on the record, with multiple guests on the record. Including Ethan from Primitive Man. Can you talk about sort of how it has felt for you to open up the band in kind of that way from it just being the two of you to sort of bringing other people and other ideas in, and how that has affected how you see the band, how it has changed your sort of working relationship with the band?
Yeah.
We, for the longest time, we were resistant, I guess, against a bassist or adding a bassist, because we really felt like we could do what we want to do with just the two of us. And anytime anyone would ask, hey, do you want me to play bass for you guys? We're like, no, we got this.
You're like, is that like an insult, a compliment? Like, are we not?
Right.
I mean,
right.
Yeah.
And so Tommy would add some more amps, and
No, it's cool. I'll just add another full stack. Don't worry about it.
And then that got really old, just carrying out the two of us.
Yeah. It just meant more weight to carry around.
Yeah, but as we were, writing more in like the last 3 or 4 years, we really wanted Tommy to have the ability to do more layering with the guitars, and you can only loop so much, and sometimes there is an awesome part to have that low end holding down the rhythm and the beat with me. And so it at a certain point it was like, we want to do more, we want to expand, let's do this. And it has to be on our own time, so that's why we did it this long. And it felt right too, because Eric, who's our bassist right now, we had been friends with him for so long, and he had toured with us. He was the merch guy, and it worked. It's really, it's hard to be in a band with a couple, and so that alone was like, if we're gonna have a bassist, it's gonna be a friend or someone that can work with us too. And Eric was down from the start, and he also said, if I'm gonna be a part of this band, I want to be a part of the collaborative process too. So it was something we all kind of agreed on. We're like, yeah, we want to do this. And it really, I think, helped for us solidify the live shows too, and really kind of be in sync with each other and writing with each other, and having a third person, really just having another opinion in the songwriting process is so awesome. Because a lot of times it'd be Tommy and I arguing. So having that third opinion is the tiebreaker, it's awesome. But a lot of it too was we really appreciated having an expansive sound and having the ability to get there, I guess, with a third person. And then adding collaboration in with this last album, I think was us two pushing ourselves to that next level. We're like, what, we're inspired by our friends. We're inspired by all these musicians around us, especially in Denver. It's just wild how much is here, how much talent is here. We love all of these, people's bands. We listen to them regularly. We just like love you guys as people, and would you be able to come on and do this? We picture you on this song, and that kind of effort and difference for us was just so exciting, and we just felt like this is the next level for us, because having more voices on the album, it's just been Tommy and I for so long.
We started out doing all of our own recording, booking. Like, I recorded us originally on a 4-track, Tascam, and we booked all of our own shows. We booked tours. We every aspect. I feel like we had like we have to just be, in control of, I guess.
Yeah.
Whatever, like we just wanted that to be, I don't know. Like, and it was probably for a lack of resources in coming from New Mexico, but we just were like excited, that was it. It's like, hey, fuck it. I'll book a tour. I'll do whatever it takes. Like, and it's kind of the, I didn't ever see myself doing that, before that. But also, like, I mean, we I think with strong roots in DIY, like that was just kind of our like, you know, if you don't have a guy that does it or you're gonna like talk to, you just do it.
Right.
And why not? Like whatever. And you know, that was kind of the thing. And like the people that we've gravitated towards the most strongly in the Denver scene are all people of that similar ethic. That like, of course, Ethan McCarthy. I mean, what a DIY legend in Denver. And then like, you know, Paul and Erica being on the record. I mean, they work night and day for their bands, and it's like
extremely creative people.
Very, yeah.
It was just an honor to work with them and to just be friends with them in general, because they're just constantly inspiring us. So
yeah,
I don't know the Primitive Men cats at all. Like I don't know them, but my understanding is they're squarely in the category of best dudes. Can you confirm or deny?
100%.
Absolutely
Yes.
confirm. Absolutely
cool.
confirm.
That's cool.
100%.
Cool.
No, there's
music.
They do, yeah. No,
well, yeah, and
it would have to be
also,
sweethearts,
like,
though. I mean, you would have to figure.
Well, there is a lot of history there, and a lot of you know, running DIY house shows with with Ethan, like Last Mat, Aqualung. I mean, there's a lot of history there. That there's a lot of hours and days and weeks spent dealing with what it takes to run a house venue, or that kind of stuff. And they best dudes, I think, is an understatement. I mean, it's just
like hardest working dudes.
They work really hard. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
they put in a lot of time, and they've that's kind of the fact that they're nice is a cherry on top, because they've
bonus. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They like the fact that they're nice is because they're like great people. But they've definitely like grinded through everything that they've earned everything.
Yeah. No, yeah.
Totally. Awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sort of going back to what you guys were saying about bringing in other people, bringing in Eric on bass and bringing in collaborators. Do you feel like that mindset was affected by obviously the time you sat during the pandemic, but do you feel like opening up the band more was something that kind of came to you, maybe not as a direct result of the pandemic, but something that was affected by it anyway?
That is a good question. Not necessarily, because some of that was written and we started having these conversations like maybe, the end of 2019.
Okay.
So I think a lot of it was just, building stronger relationships here, and, really getting closer with people and wanting to collaborate on that level. But definitely we knew going into this album, like that we want this to be a bigger album. We want to, before the pandemic, we wanted to sit with the songs anyways and really push ourselves to make this one bigger. And sometimes that means opening it up, and being more critical of yourselves, but also having more feedback from other people. And which, having Ben and having Greg and having Ethan and Paul and everyone involved, it just made the album feel bigger before it was even finished,
Yeah, I think too with Eric, one of the bands I really like admire in terms of like I think the structure that really influenced me writing wise, but we were never able to really achieve it, was Dystopia. And that was like kind of like to be able to write a song like Last Breath, where Eric starts it off, and have that feeling of just like meditative bass kind of begin, that was something we were never able to, like, we were able to reach different elements that I think were always sort of in the peripheral for us, but we just never could access them as a two-piece, because it is a fairly constricting element to just you have to play the riff, you can only layer so much, and you can only really like there's only so much you can do. And I really feel like it was so cool having Eric come to the plate with like a lot of ideas, and he really helped construct a lot of the deeper mechanisms in the songs that really made them end up as they are. And yeah, I feel like a lot of that can be, we can thank Eric for that. Like his addition to the band really helped expand not just the sound, like sonically, yes, but writing wise, like being able to sit on a riff longer, being able to open up what is intrinsically doom, the old like Zeppelin or Sabbath viewpoint of like, that was a really sick riff, I want to hear it in quarter speed, and I want to dissect the riff. That is the essence of doom in my viewpoint of like, take a riff, even like Iommi would play riffs really fast, and it's like, I love that riff so much, I would love to hear it in half speed or quarter speed. Like that's beautiful. And for us to fly through riffs as a two-piece, I feel like adding a bass, it allowed us to like say, let's establish this riff and then let's build on it. Like that really started to feel appropriate in the band, where it's like these, I love this riff I wrote, I want to play it for 32 times, but I don't want to just do it myself. Like I want that feeling of collaborative expansiveness,
Where do you see that collaboration going?
Sky's the limit at this point. I mean, having Paul, Erica, and Ethan on this album was a huge, it's a compliment that they said yes in the first place. And, I'm very proud of everything that they did on the album, all the writing that we did. I think I don't know what's next. I don't know. Yeah. It's hopefully we can keep it there.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Okay. Cool.
Or we'll just do like jazz fusion or something. I mean, whatever.
Hey.
Hey, that's so cool.
Hey. I mean, if that's where you're headed, fine. That's fine. It's fine. All right, guys. I'm gonna stop the recording. Here I go. Ready? It's gonna feel different again. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Hang on.
Thank you.
All right. Just don't go anywhere.